Welcome to the Back to Life Series Level 2. Today's routine will be done down on the floor, either on a mat or right on your carpet. If it bothers your knees to have pressure on them, feel free to roll up a towel or use a pillow underneath them as cushion. And you might want to have a belt handy to help yourself in one of the stretches. As you move today, please go slowly and mindfully, always following your body's natural signals for when it's time to take a break or back off a little bit. Most of all, enjoy taking this time for yourself to move and breathe as your body comes back into healthy alignment. Come down onto the floor in a comfortable position, and we're going to start out on our backs with the knees bent, the feet about hips width apart. Bring your arms out to a T with your palms facing up. Let the back of your head rest down on the ground and allow your eyes to close. Start bringing your breath in through the nose and out through the nose. Allowing your focus on that breath to draw you into this present moment as it brings your awareness deeper and deeper into your body. Noticing any areas of tension or soreness, setting an intention to be mindful and move carefully of those areas. But now shifting your focus onto the parts of your body that feel healthy, pain-free, and full of ease. Noticing how the muscles can start to loosen up and relax. Notice how that sense of ease feels stronger and brighter as you bring your attention onto it more and more, sending your breath right into it. And exhaling out any tension. Feel your hips nice and heavy on the mat. Feel your shoulders and the back of your head heavy on the mat. And feel all the muscles that run the length of your spine melting down into the mat, fully supported. 2 more deep breaths right here, just to relax. Let your eyes open now, and we're going to bring our hands onto the hips, bringing the heels of the hands onto the hip bones and the fingertips down in a V toward the pubic bone. Doing some reclining cat-cows now. You're going to exhale, pull the belly in, round the low back toward the mat, tuck the tailbone under. Inhale, press the tailbone down, let the hip crest arch forward, and feel the low back arching off the mat. Exhaling to tuck and round. Inhaling to press and arch, getting some nice motion going here in the low back and exploring the angles that the pelvis can take. 2 more times, exhaling and inhaling. 1 more time to press and round and arch forward. Now relax again. Notice how your back sways down toward the mat and the hips tuck under a little bit. We want to come into a neutral pelvis and a neutral spine position. So keeping your heels of your hands on your hip crests and your fingertips on your pubic bones, you're going to press the tailbone down until you feel your hip bones lift just slightly and come in line with your pubic bone. Your low back has a gentle neutral curve in it. It's not arching severely off the mat. It's just coming into its neutral position. Now holding this neutral position in the pelvis, start engaging the core by drawing the belly in and up. Take a deep breath in into the chest, into the rib cage, but don't let it expand into the belly. Exhale, pull your belly tighter without rounding your back toward the mat. Bring your fingertips onto your hip crests, walk them in toward each other, dig them into those low belly muscles, and let's lift the heels off the mat. Come up onto the tiptoes. Keeping the hips totally still, we're going to inhale the knees slightly over to the right, and then exhale them back up to center. Inhale them over to the left. Exhale to bring them back up to center. We're only letting the knees drop as far as they can without letting the opposite hip rock off the mat. If that hip starts pulling away, the knees have gone too far. Now press those hips down into the mat. Make sure you're not rounding the spine down, and you should start to feel some real work coming here into this low belly muscle. That is the muscle that we want to use to stabilize our pelvis. When the pelvis is stable, then the spine can be stable and healthy as well. Good. Inhaling down, exhaling through center. 1 more time, each direction. Pull that belly down. Keep the spine neutral. Inhaling down, Exhaling through center, plant the heels on the mat. Keep the belly in nice and firm, and exhale, draw the right knee up to a tabletop position. Inhale, plant the foot down. Exhale, switch sides, left knee tabletop. Inhale down, making sure we're not bringing the knee in toward the belly. We're stacking it right above the hip and then placing it down on the mat. Exhaling to lift, draw that belly in. Inhaling to lower. This is our level 1. If you'd like to take it up to level 2, you're going to bring both knees up to a tabletop position. Inhale, tap the toes down by bringing the knee away from the hip, and exhale it back up. Inhale, draw the other knee away, and exhale back up. Continue like this, making sure that you're not tapping the toes down just by bending the knee and keeping the knees over the hips. Rather, we're drawing the knee away and exhaling to bring it back in. Press the low rib cage down into the mat. Feel your abdominals firming down. Let's do 2 more. Inhaling to tap, exhaling up. Inhaling to tap, exhaling up. Enjoying that nice, strong core. And one more time. Wonderful. Bring both feet down onto the mat. Take a couple of cat-cows to roll the hips out. Good. Bring the hips back into that neutral position, a nice gentle curve in the low back. Bring the hands down by the hips. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, reach the fingertips toward the hips. Slide your rib cage toward the hips. Make sure the tailbone doesn't tuck under. We're pressing the hips down, keeping the abdominals nice and flat. Bring the hands behind the head, open the elbows wide. Inhale, twist, look back over your right shoulder, and exhale, switch to the left. Coming through center, making sure the abdominals are pressing down and that your hips are not squeezing underneath you. Try to keep both shoulder blades lifted off the mat the whole time rather than rocking from shoulder to shoulder. And we're keeping the knees as still as possible. I know there's a lot to think about in this exercise, but continue to breathe and engage your core. One more time to each direction. Inhaling to the right, exhaling to the left, and come back. Turn the chin from shoulder to shoulder. Relax the back of the neck. Press your palms down by the hips. Step the heels in a little bit closer. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, lift those hips up and squeeze your glute muscles. Inhale to lower. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. Feel that pelvis drawing up toward the ceiling. Good. Keeping your gaze straight up to the sky so the back of the neck is long and neutral. Squeeze those hips a little tighter for 5, 4, 3, 2. Now on this last one, we're going to lift the hips and hold. Imagine you have a beach ball between your knees, and now we're going to press into that beach ball and release. Press and release. Feel the glutes squeezing underneath you while the inner thighs engage at the same time. Such a good exercise for balancing out your hips and your pelvis. Let's take 5 more. Just a slight squeeze, the knees moving in toward each other by about an inch. 2 more squeezes. And last one. Beautiful. Release the hips all the way down onto the mat. Let's come over onto the stomach. Working the upper back now. You're going to start out with your hands right under your shoulders. Now draw your belly up away from the mat. Squeeze your glutes, press your pubic bone down. Bring your gaze straight down onto the mat. Lift the chest and lift the hands. Holding it here and breathing, making sure that you don't look forward and up because that could tweak the back of your neck. Squeeze those glutes a little more. Reach your toes away from you. Keep the tops of the feet pressing into the mat. Lift just a little bit higher. Squeeze those shoulder blades together as much as you can for 2 more breaths. And release down. Turn one of your cheeks onto the mat. In this next exercise, we're going to clasp the hands behind the back. If your hands don't reach, that's not a problem. Just turn the palms toward each other like you're squeezing a beach ball on top of your hips. Bring your gaze straight down toward the mat. Draw the knuckles down toward your heels. Lift the chest and roll the shoulders back. Reach the crown of the head forward, a nice tuck in the chin. The belly is drawing in and up toward the rib cage, and we're holding and breathing, trying to lift up a little higher with every single inhale. 2 more deep breaths. And exhale, release. Turn your opposite cheek onto the mat. Let the hips relax. Let the shoulders relax. Good. Stretch those arms out in front of you. We're going to do a half breaststroke exercise. So the tops of the feet stay pressing down, the belly draws in and up. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, turn your palm back, look up over your shoulder, lift the chest. Inhale, come back through center, and exhale to switch. Inhale through center, exhale, switch. Making sure the front of your hips are both pressing down into the mat the whole time, so we're not rocking from hip to hip. Squeeze the glutes a little bit tighter. Look up over that shoulder. This is a wonderful exercise for keeping our posture nice and strong and tall rather than getting slunched and hunched forward. Good, lifting up just a little taller. One more time, each side, belly drawing in and up, listening to your back for when it's ready to take a break. And release down, turn your cheek onto the mat. For our next exercise, you're going to reach your right arm out to the side, bring your left hand under your shoulder, press into the left hand, and gently roll over onto your right hip until you feel a nice stretch come across the front of your right shoulder and your right hip. Now move very gently, never pressing too far into this stretch. You never want to feel strain or sharpness. Just a nice sensation of opening in the muscles. You can always stack your top foot behind you if that's comfortable, but it's not at all necessary. Just take a couple more breaths here, opening up the chest. Release back onto your stomach. Now we're going to walk that arm up a little bit into more of a Y position. Rest the right side of your face back on the mat and even more slowly press onto that right hip. This is going to be a little bit of a tighter stretch for the chest. Good, stretching out these tight chest muscles so that the shoulders can stay stacked nice and tall so that we don't start rounding forward. Take a couple more deep breaths. Good. Come back onto your stomach. Bring your right hand under your right shoulder. Reach your left arm out at a T, palm facing down. And we're going to roll over onto that left hip, bringing the left side of the face onto the mat. Maybe pressing that top foot into the mat and holding and breathing, opening up the left side of the chest. Noticing you might feel a little tighter or a little looser on this side. That's normal. We all have sides that are a little tighter than the other. But in doing this practice, we're bringing balance back into the body. Relax the neck and the shoulders. Come back onto your belly. Extend that left arm up and out to a Y position. Bring the left side of the face back onto the mat. And we're going to press, roll over onto that left hip. Feeling this stretch again a little bit tighter in the shoulder and the chest. Breathing into that area of the body and exhaling out the tightness. Let your body go nice and heavy onto the floor. And come back through center. Let's lift all the way up into a tabletop position. Bring your toes together with your knees apart. And we're going to sink the hips back into a child's pose. Let the forehead rest on the mat. Let the back melt down. And then walk your hands away from you just a little bit farther, feeling more of a stretch through the rib cage. To stretch out our lateral muscles, we're going to walk the hands and the chest over to the right and sink the hips down over the left hip. Reach long through the left hand. Let's take 3 deep breaths into the left side of the body. And come back through center. Walk the hands and the chest over to the left. Reach long through your right hand. Let the forehead rest on the mat. Sink your right hip down. Take 3 deep breaths into the right side of the body. Back to center and all the way up into a tabletop pose, and then lowering the hips onto the mat. Come all the way onto your side. Let your head rest in your hand. The knees are going to bend forward and the toes are going to come back in line with your hips. So make sure you can see your toes behind you. Now, in order to stack our hips, we're going to press the top hip away from us a little bit so it's not just caving in. And you're going to feel your side body lifting up away from the mat. Bring your hand onto your hip and dig into that low belly muscle. Contract it in and up, relax the shoulders. As you exhale, lift that top knee and then tap it down. Tap toe to toe, knee to knee. As we're working here, rotating the leg, feeling the mobility in that hip socket, we're using our low belly muscle to stabilize the pelvis. Good. Pressing that knee as wide open as you can, and then lifting the toes as much as you can. Let's speed it up a little bit, but making sure that that top hip stays totally still. Nice deep breaths here. 5 more, feeling that glute, feeling the belly. 3, 2, and 1. Release it down. Come all the way onto your back. Let's stretch it out. Place your right foot down on the mat. Cross your left ankle over the top of your right knee. We're going to reach between the legs for the back of the right thigh and draw it in toward the chest. Keep your left foot flexed, which will protect your left knee joint. And then we're going to slowly roll the knees over a few inches toward the right until you feel that stretch deepen along the back of the left hip. Relax the shoulders down, bring your nose straight up toward the ceiling, and then tuck your chin, press the back of the head and the back of the neck into the mat. Feeling a nice stretch along the back of the neck, a little strengthening in the front of the neck, but mostly getting a nice deep stretch in the back of that left hip. This is the second version of that special stretch that can help relieve sciatica. We're stretching that piriformis muscle that when it's tight, it can pinch on that sciatic nerve. So this is just another variation of that same stretch to help release that muscle. One more deep breath in here, and exhale, release. Let's roll over onto the side. Use your arm as a pillow for your head, bend your knees, and you're going to reach your hand for the top of your top foot. Now, if you can't reach the foot, this is a great place to use your belt to hook onto that foot. To stretch out the hip flexor, we're going to draw the knee back and press the hip forward. Taking deep breaths into the front of the thigh and the front of the hip. Making sure that that knee is right in line with your hip joint rather than coming up toward the ceiling or down toward your bottom leg. Line it up, press that hip forward. Nice deep breaths. Maybe even closing the eyes, feeling the muscles release and relax. 3 more deep breaths here to open that hip up. One more inhale. And let go of that foot. Bring the knees out in front of you in a 90-degree angle with your hips. Bring the heels out in line with the knees. The side of your head is going to rest on the mat. Bring your bottom hand forward onto your kneecaps and make sure that the knees are stacked rather than the top knee pulling away. We're going to try to keep these knees stacked as we move into our twist. As you inhale, roll onto the back of the head, open the top arm back, and look over your shoulder. Check in with this bottom hand. Make sure your top knee has not drawn away from it. Now, your open arm is probably not going to reach all the way back onto the mat. That's fine. Just let it hover right here. This is a wonderful stretch to bring mobility into the upper back. It's a fairly fixed part of the spine, but this stretch really gets in there. We're also opening up the chest. Let the back of the head be heavy. Let's take a couple more breaths here. Reach long through those back fingertips. Feel that stretch come into the chest a little bit more. And exhale, come back onto your side. Press your hand down into the floor to help you come all the way up. And we're going to switch sides. Coming down onto the side now, letting the head rest in the hand, bringing the knees out in front of you, bending the knees, but keeping the toes back in line with your hips. Press that top hip away to stack it up. Dig into those low belly muscles to let them activate. Draw the belly in and up. Lift the top knee and then tap the knees. Tap toe to toe and knee to knee. Good. Nice deep breaths. Keeping that stomach contracting in as tight as you can. Keeping the hips stacked, making sure they're not rocking forward and back as the leg moves. We're trying to get more mobility here in this hip socket and again, more stability in the pelvis. Stable pelvis means stable, healthy spine. Let's speed it up. Tapping and tapping. Deep breaths. Relax your top shoulder. Good. 5 more. 4. Open it a little wider. 3, 2, And 1. Let that leg close. Roll onto your back for our favorite stretch. Crossing your right ankle over the left knee. Reach between the legs. Grab onto the back of your left thigh. Relax the shoulders down. And then let the knees roll a few inches over to the left till you feel that stretch come nice and deep into the right hip. Bring the nose up toward the ceiling, tuck the chin, press the back of the head and the back of the neck down into the mat. Draw those knees in a little bit tighter. And take deep breaths in through the nose, out through the nose. Breathing through the nose is very calming for the nervous system. And it also helps the muscles relax and release a little more. You can even close the eyes and see how that feels for your body. Let's take 3 more deep breaths here in this reclining pigeon. Good. Let go of that thigh. Uncross the ankle. We'll come over onto our side for our hip flexor stretch. Bring the arm under the head for a pillow. Bend the knees. Reach the hand or the belt for the top of your top foot. And then draw that knee back. Press the hip forward. Deep breaths again. Imagining you can send those inhales right into the front of that thigh. And as you exhale, you feel that muscle loosening up and lengthening out. 3 more deep breaths, drawing the knee back just a little bit more. And release that foot. Bring the knees out in front of you again. Make that 90-degree bend in the hips, and then the heels in line with the knees, so a 90-degree bend in the knees. The side of the head rests on the mat, and your bottom hand comes down to hold onto those front kneecaps to make sure they stay locked together. As you inhale, roll onto the back of the head. Open the arm back. Look up over that shoulder. Make sure your top hip is stacked and your top knee is stacked. Let that arm release down. Take a few deep breaths now into the upper back. Try to send your inhales all the way into that space right between the shoulder blades. Reach those fingers back a little bit more for a couple more breaths. And exhale, close that arm back over. We're going to roll all the way onto our backs now. Getting ready for Shavasana. Beginning where we started with the palms facing up, the feet planted on the mat, the knees, hips width apart. Let the eyes close. Feel the hips nice and heavy on the mat. Feel the shoulders resting down on the mat. The back of the head completely supported. And the muscles that run the length of the spine are able to relax and ease up. If you'd like to, you can straighten your legs out, bringing them all the way down onto the mat and then relaxing the hips, relaxing the toes, the fingertips, the forehead, the jaw. Scanning through your body, noticing all the points of ease, all the places that feel warm and open and healthy. Breathing into those spaces and feeling them grow brighter and stronger with every inhale. Noticing how when you keep your attention focused on these parts of the body that feel healthy and pain-free, the areas of pain are able to ease up a little bit more. And this final pose is yours to hold for as long as you would like, allowing your mind and your body this special time to take rest.